I wanna wake up in the morning where the orange blossoms grow, and the sun comes peeping in where I've been sleeping, and the songbirds say hello. I love the fresh air and the sunshine. It's good for us, you know. So I'll make my home in Florida where the orange blossoms grow.
Hello, my name is Sharon Lamb, and I have lived in Palm Harbor since 1975. I've been a member of the Palm Harbor Historical Society, which operates the Palm Harbor Museum, since it began in 1983. The museum's oral history project began with a grant in 2012 to create videos of residents who live or work in Palm Harbor to tell their stories. More than 80 videos have been filmed so far. Good. Today we're speaking with Phillip Thompson, a direct descendant of the W.L. Thompson family, credited with being the first family to truly settle homestead in the uninhabited area which is now Palm Harbor. William Lawrence Thompson and his wife Eliza had to clear land to raise the food to feed their family, even while they were struggling to build a home. The family moved into the log cabin they built in the early 1860s, and their son George built a home for his family around 1910. So was George's home still here when you were a child?
Yes, it was. It was at the corner behind the post. Actually, the post office holds the property. Oh. There's a big two-story house. Mm-hmm. Right behind that. There is a book someplace with a picture of it, of the home, and it may be in some of this stuff. I'm not sure, but there's. I think it's in the history.
Probably in one of these.
It's in one of the historical books. I remember seeing it. Yeah. He had three daughters, and Eloise was the youngest, and she was a school teacher. She taught all of us kids back in the
in one room.
30s. Yeah. Well, that brick building was out there. They torn down on well, we called it Westlake Road. Mm-hmm. But still, I think that's. And she. At one time, she had another teacher, and there was two of them. Mm-hmm. There was two rooms. And then as time went on, I guess, and the Depression hit in. They cut her down to one. She had four classes, four grades in one classroom.
Right.
And I went with it for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then my sister was right behind me. And my two brothers were ahead of me. They were older than me, yes. And anyway, she was an excellent woman, very calm in demeanor, and she never yelled, or she was always real calm with the kids and stuff.
That's good.
And talking about the schoolhouse, and I was thinking coming up, we had outside a toilet.
Right. And
the old toilet had the water closets were up on the wall.
Right.
And
with a chain.
That's what time I grew up. So. Yeah. And so anyway, she was a sweet lady, and she taught a lot of kids here in Palm Harbor and around the surrounding area. Mm-hmm. We were bused from wherever, and Gray Rogers and was the first bus driver I remember, and he's also entombed at Midway Cemetery, which is out here on 16th Street.
Right.
And then there was Ernest Walker. He had a grocery store down on the main street there, almost across from Dewey Adair's establishment, and the little barber shop. Mm-hmm. And so that's about all that I really can remember about that, other than, this Mr. Grider had a grocery store and gas station up on the corner of Tampa Road and Eastlake, or Westlake Road, And so my mother sometimes would give me a nickel, and I'd go up there and get a bar of candy or something from Mr. Grider. and we were all allowed to walk up there if we had money. So, and so I got through with elementary through the 3rd grade, and they changed things around when I went in the 4th grade, so I had to go to Tarpon Springs, which
Oh,
I
okay.
hated.
No,
Well, I got nothing against Greeks. I got a lot of Greek friends, but at the time, you know, we lived in Palm Harbor.
Yeah.
We weren't used to anything but working grove hands. You know, that's the way we grew up. I worked, and at 7 years old, I was out hoeing orange trees and picking fruit
Right,
and
in
stuff.
the groves.
Yeah, and you went to work, as we said, you had to. My dad was a civil engineer, and I think he was, well, we ended up with 7 of us in the family, with 2. Dad had a daughter, and my mother had a son when they married.
Oh,
So
okay.
then they had 5 between them. But then, of course, Alice Nell, my oldest sister, she passed away when she was 9 years old, before Jean was born.
right.
And she died on January of 35, and Jean was born in December of 35.
Oh,
So that's my sister. I showed you a picture a while ago.
Yes.
Anyway, and so anyway, I did not like Tarpon Springs, so you know, Alderman Road and 19 Cross, well, that's where we got on the high pavement. Other than
Right.
that, it was dirt roads
Dirt
back
roads,
in.
right.
Yeah, all of Alderman Road was dirt road. Either way you went, Tarpon or Lake Tarpon or up to the woods where we used to get Christmas trees. But that's mentioned in these books too, about the Christmas trees.
Yes.
And anyway, let's see, where was I? You'll have to bear with me because I forget sometimes.
Tarpon Schools.
Tarpon School, yeah. And well, anyway, I was telling you about the road, and we were the highest point in Pinellas County at that time. They've cut feet off of that hill that was up there. But anyway, we walked from there. Well, our house was way back in behind Walmart. We walked
Right.
out to the highway and then down the highway to Nebraska to catch the
Wow.
bus so we could go to Curlew and Palm Harbor Junior High School.
Oh, so you didn't have to go to
Didn't have to go back to
Tarpon.
Tarpon Springs.
Okay.
No, so anyway, it was quite a thing. So then I went in the 5th grade and went through. Mrs. Wolford was my first teacher, and then I forget the next 2 or 3, and they weren't important. But anyway, went through to the 9th grade, and then
Oh,
in the 9th grade, there's a picture in the book there of my 9th grade class in Palm Harbor
oh, nice.
in
yeah.
1947. And so anyway, all the kids, must be a dozen of us all together, the whole class. And I think there was 8 or 9 boys and maybe that many girls, maybe a couple of more girls. But anyway, we had Mrs. MacArthur as our teacher, and she was quite a lady too. She was really nice. And we put on we had a big auditorium that burned when the school burned in the back of the school.
Yeah?
And so it was probably pretty close to the size of this room.
Wow.
And
Big.
we had a stage. And so we put on a play called Wild Ginger.
Wild Ginger.
Wild Ginger.
Okay.
And Billy Harris played Wild Ginger, and Herbie Mann played Mr. Johnson, and I played Wilsie Walker. I was a hillbilly. But anyway, we got a lot of compliments on the show.
bet. That's great.
You know, they raised money to buy basketballs and stuff for the school.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
why we got our toys for school, you know. We wore them out in a year, you know.
Oh, sure.
And anyway, so then I graduated from Palm Harbor Junior High and went to Tarpon Springs. Then I had to.
Then you had to. That's
There
all,
was
all
no
we
other
had,
high
right?
school. The nearest high school was Clearwater. And
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't going to walk down there. That was quite a walk.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I went through 10th, 11th, and 12th grade and graduated from high school in June of 1951.
Okay.
And all during this time, I was working with my mother and Daddy in the Grove and helping out. And,
Your family owned the Grove?
well,
Or
It was my grandmother owned it.
Okay.
That lived in the big house in Tarpon Springs. And my dad and aunt eventually inherited it when she passed away. They got half and half.
Oh,
So
okay.
mother and daddy had to, if you go down 19, just past Walmart.
okay, right.
Okay, there's some kind of a health center or something built there now. It's where our house was, and we had a fruit stand right out in front
Oh,
of it. But and just to tell you something that came to me coming down behind Walmart, if you go around the backside, you have to go, there was up until now there was 2 pecan trees that my great grandfather planted.
wow.
And one of them's still there. I don't know how long it's got, but one of them's still in there. Pecan tree is getting close to 200 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do they just live forever, or,
I don't know. This one is, it looks like.
yeah?
I remember we used to go up and pick the pecans up. They were just
nice.
little, but they taste like butter. They were so
Oh,
good
yeah.
and rich, and peanut oil and stuff. But anyway, I grew up in the big house, and then in about 1948, I think we built the house down on. They cut 19 through. It used to, well, it was an old road that went through there, but 19, it used to come down to Holiday and then get to cut through Tarpon Springs,
Yeah.
US 19. And then they cut it finally through on down to St. Petersburg, so they built the house and the fruit stand down on the highway. 'Cause
Right.
At this time, by then, they had inherited the grove, so they could
Right.
care for it and sell the fruit out
Yeah.
there. And they did quite a business. We had orange juice and papaya juice and all kinds of trinkets and things, like you see today on some of these
Sure,
little
yeah,
places.
it's still there.
And they made a living for themselves. And then in it was about 1960, no, 1958, 59, the grove froze.
All
We had
right.
a hard freeze, and then the grove was all killed. So they sold the property and moved out to Northwest Florida.
Oh,
And this is my dad with some of the children out there feeding the cattle. It's kind of shaded, but
right, I can see.
anyway.
Nice.
And this was my mom and dad. That's when they were younger.
Nice.
Anyway, there's a picture of me when I was
Yes, when you graduated.
graduated from
from high
Tarpon High
school,
School in
yes.
1951.
Right.
And that's my sister that's still living, and me.
You and your sister, right,
I
here.
don't know if I showed you this one, but there's the
Yes, that's,
four of us on the mule. That's old Sue. My grandfather died in 25, and Sue died, I think, probably in the mid to late 40s. She was always plowed the grove and
Wow.
garden and all kinds of things like that. And that was my sister that passed away.
yes, yeah, sorry.
Okay. And there's 3 of my aunts and my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
They lived in Tarpon Springs. And there's my mom, my brother, me, and Bobby, and Billy, and Jean, and Frisky,
Frisky.
our puppy. Yeah. And so, anyhow, I think that,
Yeah,
well, I was going to show you this one. That's one of me. But the story behind this is, I'm rambling maybe.
That's
but,
okay. You were
Anyway,
how old here, do you think?
I was probably 7, 8. Anyway, I've got a great grandson, and believe it or not, see how my hands are held there?
Yeah.
He does the same thing.
Oh,
He does. He does the
inherited.
same. He does the same stuff I do. It's unreal. They say history doesn't repeat itself. It does. Believe me. Believe me,
Well,
it does repeat itself.
inherited, yeah.
Yeah, that's my
traits.
buddy. He's later
Yes.
down the road.
This is Buddy. Okay, we'll save him for
So
a little
anyway.
bit later. So just to back up a minute, you were actually born here in Pinellas County?
I was born at the corner of Alderman Road and US 19.
Okay, in a
No.
house?
Not that house. The one that we moved to that later. We got too big for the
Right.
one. We had one further down on the property that my mother and daddy built. They they rented that house to some people that had a family, and then they moved up to we called it the old big house.
Right, the big house.
And we were one of the fortunate people in that part of Florida because we had running water in the house out on the grove.
Right.
My grandfather built a tower, or had it built. Anyway, I don't know, I wasn't there, but anyway, it was about 12 to 15 foot high, and then they built a big tank, wooden tank on that, and then we had a pump. You could either pump it by hand or disconnect it, and then we had a what they call a one lung pump motor, and you cranked it, put the belt on, and it pumped the water up into the.
Wow, nice.
And then it was siphoned. We didn't have pressure, but we had siphon. It was high enough water siphoned into the house.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
But you
we
still,
were rich.
yes, you were at that time. Did you still have an outside toilet or?
No, oh yeah, we had the two-holer.
Yeah.
The half moon and the star.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that was there until we moved in about 1930, not 1940, 45 or 46. We moved down and built the new house, and we had a pump with running water,
Oh, yeah.
and we still didn't have electricity. We did all of our studying by lamplight.
Really?
We had at the big house, we had a wooden heater that we set up in the wintertime. My mother would bring the wash tub in, fill it with water, heat it on that wood heater, and put it in the wash tub, and then we all took a bath, all in the same water.
Took turns.
It wasn't, you know, we didn't have any choice. Couldn't kids heat
Well,
water, you know.
right.
Well, in the Grove, you're dirty anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think I was ever clean till I went in the Air Force, really completely. But
Right.
it's just the way it was. You had there wasn't grass. All the groves were being harrowed or plowed, and the dust
Right.
flying, and
Sure,
and you
right.
worked out there in it. And but one of my main things that I enjoyed growing up as a small child was kids today are spoiled with all these toys and
They
stuff.
are.
You know, my main toy was a cardboard box and a piece of 2x4, and I could build a city with that
Right.
and enjoy myself.
And your imagination.
And
So
I
much
stayed
better than-
busy, and I never got in trouble.
Good for you.
I wasn't out shooting people, and none of my family. I
Right.
can pretty much say that my whole family, we've been very fortunate
Yes.
as far as crime.
Good.
Thank goodness, and praise the Lord. And
So how did your family celebrate the holidays, like Christmas? Did you have a big meal and then gathered everybody in?
oh
or
yeah,
how
yeah,
did that
we
go?
in the I call it the old big house, the one I showed you. We had a big round oak table, and my dad took the boxes. I don't know if you know, the fruit boxes used to be two
Yeah,
sections,
right.
and he'd cut to have the middle seat to sit on, and then leave the sides up. And he had about 6 or 8 of those that they put around the table.
Oh, okay.
And our ritual was on Saturday night, Saturday afternoon late, we'd go to Tarpon. All of us kids would go to the movies, see Roy Rogers or, you know, Wild Bill Elliott or somebody. Anyway, and then my mother and daddy would do the shopping. We'd get through with the movies and come out, and we all came home. We had in the earlier years, we had a 1935 Ford. And all of us,
You could all get in there.
got in that Ford, and of course you could sit 3 in the front and 4 in the back. Really, if you want, we sit on each other's lap. But,
Sure.
And then we come home, and a lot of times there was a little like a stand there that sold fruit and shrimp and stuff like that. It was a little Greek store there on Tarpon Avenue, and we'd go over and get 5 pounds of shrimp.
Oh,
And come home, my mother would boil them. We'd all sit and eat the shrimp and listen to the Grand Ole Opera on the radio. We had a radio, and the battery was bigger than the radio. It was about so big, just full of batteries.
oh,
And the radio was one of those cars, just sit on about this big. But it was good. It for us was we got WFLA, WSUN, and WTSP, I think, 3 or 4 stations.
yeah.
We got on that on the battery radio. But then we would all go to bed, and then Sunday mornings we would get up, and my mother made oatmeal or cream of wheat or something, or boxed cereal. And we all sit around the table and we talked about the movie
From the night before.
from the night before. Everybody put in their input about that. It was family time.
Yeah.
And then we had the Tampa Tribune at the time
Okay.
delivered on Sunday morning,
Mm-hmm.
and he put it in our mailbox, which was, of course, from here to the road or further out. We had to walk out there to get it, but we'd go get that, and then in the was the Sunday Funnies,
Yes.
the comics, Little Orphan Annie and Tim Tyler's Luck, Invisible Charlotte O'Neill, and all those kind of old cartoon things.
Right.
But anyway, on the radio then was Uncle Walt came on, and he read the funnies. So we'd sit there and go through the funnies with Uncle Walt reading the funnies to us.
Wow.
But we just had a real close family time.
That's wonderful.
And then
Yeah.
we'd all get ready and go down here to the old Methodist church,
Mm-hmm.
and the church. And all of us kids were sprinkled there, baptized. And of course we all went astray from that, but anyway, no, I'm still Methodist, but my kids, I don't know, my
Yeah.
sisters and brothers, it's hard to keep up when you're scattered all over the
It
world.
is, yeah.
And now I got family all over the United States now. so,
Sure.
yeah, and but it was an enjoyable time, and we got up. Daddy got up early and he milked the cow. We think we had 2 cows he milked. We needed all that milk. My mother
Oh,
made
yeah?
cottage cheese. She made butter, the cream, and she did most all of our cooking and canning. She put jars and jars out where the big tank I was telling you, the water tank, was her wash shed.
Okay.
And Daddy built shelves in there for her.
Oh.
So then she would can peaches. We had wild peaches grew, and plums, and she'd make jelly
Wow.
and jam, and then guavas galore. We always had, she'd cut the guavas, take the seeds out, and then she would put the rind with outside, the soft meat, and can that.
Wow.
And,
Nice.
then we had, at mealtime, she would make dumplings and things like that with either the guava or peaches or whatever.
Sure.
And my mother was quite a cook. She used to make she had a big 4-burner kerosene stove and an oven,
Yeah.
asbestos oven, which asbestos was legal in those days. And anyway, it made the best bread. I remember coming home from school and get off the bus, and I'd start walking toward the house, and I could smell
Oh,
yeast bread
the bread
baking.
baking, right.
Oh, go home, she'd take them right out of the oven when we get there,
Yeah.
cut them open, put butter in them, and let it just melt. Oh, talking about good food. People don't know what it is to eat today.
I know.
But my dad and I used to go out to Holzmar or someplace, and he'd cast net mullet.
Oh, yeah.
He'd catch mullet, and we'd bring it home and clean it. And my mother could fry the best mullet. She could fry the best chicken. You can ask that girl over there. She'll tell you that nobody could cook mullet like Granny could, or fried chicken. I don't know, it's just something she did. I tried to fry chicken like her, so I started grilling it.
Oh, right. Well, it's more healthy that way, right?
I gave up on frying
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah, but anyway, it was just an enjoyable lifetime and growing up. And then
So who were some of your friends when you were younger, growing up? Some
Well-
of the families that were here then?
and my schoolmates, mainly because where we lived, there was nobody. The Reveres lived across 19
Right, across 19.
on that where the Publix or whatever that is over there now. And then we had Grove hands that moved in with families. My grandfather's grove ended here, and then there was another grove that went on back to the scrub where the school, Sandy Lane School is.
Right.
And there was a grove there, and that was called the, what do they call that, the Hull Grove.
Oh.
And they had a big old 2-story home there,
Oh.
estate, and had 2 fireplaces in it, and the tenants would stay there to work on the Grove.
Okay.
And they lived in that house.
Yeah.
And then they always had children, so
So you'd play with-
we played with
yeah.
them mostly.
Sure.
And then, of course, Herbie Mann was my cousin. He was Eloise's nephew. Eloise
Now
Thompson.
the Manns are
The Man-
still here, right? They're still Doris.
Well, George is the only one left.
Okay.
Doris, she was what's Doris's name? I can't remember the last name. Anyway, they lived down here on County Road 1. I want to say Eichel, but it's not Eichel. Anyway, Nigel.
Nigel,
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
it.
Yeah, Doris, she's Herbie Mann's.
That's right, because Winona,
Yeah,
who married Charlie,
right.
Nigel's.
And
Yeah.
anyway, there's mainly the ones like Herbie Mann, Bobby Crow. They all lived right along on Nebraska and right in that area, and they were all close. And we used to. I remember one story. I'll never forget. I was telling you about us walking down.
Yes.
Okay, we called that corner. Revere's lived there. Glenda lived right on the corner,
Okay, right.
in the southwest corner. Her mother and daddy had their house there. And I remember we picked a bunch of tangerines, and we come down and we're standing out in that intersection. You didn't have to worry about cars then. It went maybe one every 10
Right.
years rode by. I think Eloise was the only one that had a little Model A coupe that she drove to work, out to the school, because she lived down in Ozona there, near
Right.
Ozona. But anyway, we was out there and we peeled all those tangerines and ate them. We threw the peels all out in the road.
Oh,
Murtis was already ready to kill us,
I'll bet.
messing up her front of her house with all those tangerine peels. But that's about the most mischief we ever got into, or
Really?
something like that. Yeah, we didn't. We never had any trouble with, you know, we worked. We worked in the Grove. We worked in the
Right.
garden. Mother and Daddy had a big garden. They raised strawberries. They raised, she paid for my sister, the doctor, with strawberries. He liked
Really?
strawberries, and she raised strawberries. She said, well, tell me when you think she's paid for.
Aw.
So she would bring him strawberries, and
Right.
he said, okay, you've given enough. And
That's-
so we always called her Strawberry Girl.
Aw,
growing
that's
up.
sweet. Yeah.
And
Great.
and this one here, they're showing you, there's a big guava bush in there.
Oh.
But then the vines, you don't notice
Yeah.
it because the vines grew all over it.
Is that kudzu?
I'm not sure
those
what
vines?
it was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That
They
was
kinda
so many
take
years
over.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a takeover vine. Anyway, we were.
So you graduated from high school. Did
I came home and I worked in the Grove. And my mother and daddy at the fruit stand for about. Well, I graduated in June, so in February I decided that's enough gardening, and I joined the Air Force.
okay.
Well, that wasn't a smart idea, but I was stuck for 4 years.
Right.
But anyway, I went to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas for boot camp, and was there 8 weeks. And then they sent me to Augusta, Georgia, Fort Gordon, which is an Army camp, but it's military police school. There, I'm big now, but then I was tall, but I weighed about 130 pounds. Now I'm 230. But but anyway, it was kind of rough on me because I was used to working, but not that kind.
Right.
Kind
Not
of
working
drilling
out.
and
kind of-
drilling
yeah.
and then push-ups and stuff like that. I couldn't do, and I couldn't shoot a gun. I was never one that liked a gun. My brother did all the rabbit hunting. He used to in the Grove. We go out during rabbit season and get the cottontails, and they're very delicious. My mother could fry them too. I'll tell you, she'd cook them up for breakfast for us. But anyway, I got through there, and I transferred from there to Orlando. Used to be an Air Force base out on Highway 50 out out toward the Gulf or the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And so I was out there for about 3 or 4 months. They didn't think I had enough schooling, so they sent me to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to Sandia Bays for some more security training now. So I was there 10 months,
That
all
was,
out bivouacking, putting salt tablets in your water, which was stupid of them, but you know, you couldn't drink it. Who
Yeah.
wants that? I mean, you'd better to go ahead and try to make your saliva work or eat a rock. And but anyway, I got through that, and but while I was there, I had developed a hernia, and so I had an operation there, and they sent me home for 30 days.
Oh.
So I came home to recuperate from that.
back to your parents'
Yeah,
house.
yeah, I come back home and stayed with Mom and Dad for about 30 days, and then I went back, and the first thing they did was put me on KP. Actually, I hadn't had KP for a month, you know, so I had to get busy.
Right.
with
You had to catch up.
Had to do the kitchen police.
Right.
So, anyway, we got through there, and they sent me. Well, when I was at Orlando, I lived right here, so my Mom and Dad helped me get a car, so I could drive back, and on my days off, I could come
Right.
home for a couple of days. But anyway, just throw that in so you'll know that I did do something besides march.
Right.
But anyway, then when I had to go to Sandia, I sold the car,
Oh.
and so got through Sandia, and they sent us to Rushmore Air Force Station, which is now it's in South Dakota.
Oh. Okay.
It'll come to me. It's where the presidents, all the heads of the presidents, it's right in that
Oh,
area.
yeah.
Rapid City. I should have been
Okay.
able to know that as slow as I talk. But anyway, went to Rapid City, and that was actually where we were. It was Ellsworth Air Force Base, but we were in a secure area. Above was an atomic assembly where the military assembled the atomic bombs, and then we guarded that. We had a 8-foot fence, a road, another 8-foot fence on the side of that. Inside of that fence was an electric 8-foot chain link fence. It was all charged with electricity, and then one guarding that inside. So it was four fences there, 8 foot tall, around that secure area. We had pillboxes, and it's all closed now, so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's been in the 50s. So, but anyway, they would assemble the atomic bombs, and then I'm sure they were dummies, but anyway, then we'd go and they'd learn loading them
Right.
down to the airport and down to the runways and load them on the planes.
Yeah.
And trained to do that. And so I did that for 2 winters. And then the Air Force decided they didn't need so many security guards anymore. So they offered me an out. I had 26 months in, they offered me an out. And so I said, believe me, I'll take it.
Right.
So I came home, then I had six more years, all total 8 years, but I had 6 years of reserve.
Reserves. Right.
But I didn't have to go to any meetings. It was inactive reserve. And I got through that, but then after I got home, I worked with Mom and Dad a little bit, and I got tired of doing grove work and stuff, and so I went to work for Publix.
Oh, okay.
So down in Cleveland Plaza, you know where City Hall is in Clearwater?
Yes.
On Missouri?
Yes.
Well, right next to that was a Publix. It's now a dent can place. Or last time I heard it was dents and spent your dents. But anyway, I worked there for John Young for about 5, 6 months. And it wasn't my bag, and I put in an application with the Florida Power Corporation.
Okay.
And about 3 days after I put it in, they called me, and the general line foreman was Buddy Lane, and he knew my dad, so I actually got hired.
Right. You had an in.
So I got it in. That was in August 15th of 1955.
55.
And I went to work for them, and then I was working on just, all we did was set poles at that time. The crew I went on was pole setting crew, was where you started. And they had a digger, and auger and would dig the hole out, and we'd
Right.
set the pole in, and we'd tamp the dirt back in around it. It wasn't nothing strenuous most of the time.
Those are big
Sometimes we had
poles,
to
though.
pike them up back in the
Yeah.
back lot line or something, but for the most part, it wasn't really that hard. And so, anyway, during that time, I was off on Sundays. Well, no, I was still working at Publix. I was working on, I didn't work Sundays. Publix was closed on Sundays.
Oh.
So I'd go to church, and this one Sunday, it was July the 12th of 1954, I went to Sunday school, and I came home, and my mother said there's some people that I let go up in the grove, because my dad was off on one of his binges someplace. Anyway, they wanted to pick their own fruit, and so she let them go up
Sure.
and pick their own fruit. And so she said, "But I think they're stuck." So I said, "Okay." I got a shovel, and I went up, and I was going up the dirt road to where they were. I could see the car, so I knew right where they were. And I seen this little blonde out there picking tangerines. So I introduced myself to everybody and went ahead and started picking tangerines too. And anyway, we went around the tree, and they got the fruit they wanted, and went back to the car. And I said, "You're not really stuck. You don't know how. They're from New York. You don't know how to drive on this sand." And to put a perspective in place, her dad at that time, she was 16, and he was 73. And
Okay.
he's from Hungary.
Oh.
He came over on the boat, put on all the clothes he could get on, got off the boat, and stayed in the United States.
Yeah.
Her mother was married and came over from Germany, and then the Depression came, and her husband at the time was a dentist. Did dental work,
Right.
for plates and stuff, and he lost all of his money.
Oh.
And so eventually they ended up, he went nuts kind of, and so they ended up, they had a little son, and so they got divorced, and she was raising the boy, and I guess she met my wife's dad, or this little blonde at the time. wasn't
Right,
blonde.
right.
And anyway, they ended up having a child, and she's 11 years. And of course, but then Gus was 11 years old when Edie was born. So anyway, make a long story shorter, I went over and I dug the little bit of dirt that he dug his car in. I dug it and drove it out, and got up where it was on level ground. I said, "Here," got out of it. So you go ahead and drive it. And I said, "No, you got to learn to drive in this sand if you're going to be here." But anyway, her mother was German. Her dad was Hungarian.
Hungarian.
And so we got up to the stand, and they went in and paid my mom for the fruit and stuff. And her uncle was with her, and he was about the same age as her dad. And so anyway, they got in the car to leave. They had a 49 Ford sedan, four-door. And they started to drive off, and she's in the back seat. She turns around and waves to me.
Aw.
His heart flipped over. Of course, they went on, but she told me where they lived, so it was right, on Curlew Road, just down from there's a church, an old house that they turned into a church. It's on the south side of Curlew Road,
Okay.
about maybe a half a mile from the center, from Belcher Road here. Anyway, that's where they lived at the time. They were renting the house there, and I knew where it was, and I knew the Wyricks that lived there, and I knew Jennifer, and she went to Clearwater High School too. So I got off on Tuesday, off work. I was working at Publix, and drove over to the high school, and I saw Jenny, and I said, "Do you know Edie?" Edie, and she said, "Yeah, yeah." And I said, so I said, "She's your neighbor?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "Would you mind asking her to come over to the car? I want to talk to her." And so here she comes. And we talked a little bit, and I said, well, you want me to take you home? She said, yeah. She got in the car.
Oh my
I
God.
brought her home.
Well, she remembered you from
Yeah, she knew
getting
who I
their
was.
car out of the,
And she knew my Buick. I had a 48 Buick, one of those that looked like a bathtub turned upside down. Anyway, anyway, my heart was still trying to turn back over, and I don't think it ever did. But anyway, we talked for a while when I got her home, because her mother and dad, they run a hat shop down on Greenwood Avenue there at the corner of Cleveland and Greenwood.
Oh, okay.
Her dad cleaned and flanched houses, houses, yeah. There weren't.
Right.
They needed to clean the house. But anyway, that's right there in the colored gentleman's area. And at that time, the felt hats was a
Right.
thing in the
Yes.
50s. In the 50s, this was December of 1954. Yeah. Anyway, and
And what was the little blonde's name?
well, it turned out her name was Edith, which she
Edith.
didn't like, so it's Edie.
Edie. Okay.
That's the one. I showed you one. It was our anniversary.
Yes.
But anyway, I then asked her out to go out with me, and she did. We went, and the first movie we saw was at the old Carib Theater, which was on.
Oh, yeah.
You remember it? Okay. The movie we saw was Ma and Pa Kettle. You know,
Funny.
Marjorie Mann, and I forget his name, but anyway, it embarrassed her because Marjorie Mann was kind of heavy. I guess I know she was 16 years old.
Right.
And she later told me that she was a little embarrassed being there, but she laughed. She enjoyed it. Then afterwards, I said, well, I don't have a lot of money. I don't make a bunch. I was making $45 a week and working about 60 hours, seemed like.
Yeah.
Anyway. We went up to the old Chick-In drive-in restaurant. It was there on where Gulf to Bay and Cleveland Street separate. And we got a basket of French fries and a Coke and split it. Basket of French fries was $0.25, and I think the Coke was $0.10. It cost me 35 cents to take her out, besides the movie ticket. But anyway, we always, it didn't matter. She didn't care. I guess she felt the same way about me right off the bat as I did about her. So, but anyway, we dated. She finished getting through school and stuff, and we got married in 1956. April the 6th, 1956, we got married, and in December, this little girl over there, she came along, and we were living in a 30-foot by 8-foot mobile home. It was down on my mother and dad's property. The Grove was still working at that time. It was before it froze.
Yeah.
And so we moved down in the woods, and I built a septic tank, and I working. Well, by then I had quit Publix and was going to work for Florida
Power, yeah.
So I got the electric put back
Oh,
in, so we had electricity back free.
good, yeah.
Yeah, and didn't cost me anything to get the
That's
electric back.
great.
And I had friends that worked with Hart Electric, and Bill Huddick. I don't know if you knew the Huddicks, any of them.
No.
Anyway, the guys I went to school with, all three of them are dead. They died young, and I don't know why, but they did.
So where was your first house with Edie?
Oh, okay. That's why I was building. I was building
Okay.
the mobile home we moved. Well, we put it beside my mom's house on 19, and then this was in 1955. They started having to have a permit.
Really?
Put in septic tanks in
Oh,
Pinellas
yeah, for
County
that,
and stuff. Okay, so the inspector naturally wasn't that much to do, so he caught me right off the bat, being there beside my mom's house. So he told my mom we couldn't leave the trailer there. So I went down in the woods there, and I dug out a big place and built a septic tank, and I had Curtis Ammons came and drilled me a well, and we had a little pump and stuff in the tank, and so we had water, and
Yeah.
so we moved down there, In fact, Edie's brother, the first time I met him, he came down that year we moved, and he, this was before she was born, had to be in '56, and anyway, he came down and he helped me move the trailer down and set it up.
Yeah.
And get the water hooked up and the electric and all to it. So we lived there about a year, and well, I know we were there our first Christmas because I remember I bought went up there in the scrub behind, and we got a little tree about that tall. Brought it and we set it her crib was in the living room. We had the couch on this side, a little table like this in the middle, and then her crib, and we had our bedroom in the back, and then we had a little kitchenette thing there, and the shower and the bathroom was all one unit.
Yeah.
You took a shower, you had to, if somebody had to use the toilet, they had to drive the shower up and the toilet up before you could use the toilet. But anyway, we did that for about a year, and then we went out and we bought us a big 40-foot trailer.
Yeah.
Well, we were king of the road then, big time. And so we there for a while, and then the Grove froze. Mom and Dad sold the property. Well, they were going to give us 5 acres, but then the people that bought the land wanted it all.
Oh, yeah.
So we lost our land. They gave us $1,000, and we moved to Clearwater.
Okay.
And we bought a trailer lot down there where we could have our privacy so we lived that for about 2 years. '59, we got to Skycrest Baptist Church at that time, and it was on Drew Street in Clearwater. And, well, it still is, but we were further up the old one, up the Scientologists own it now. But anyway, we met a lady there that was in real estate, and I don't know if you remember Al Rahera. Probably don't. I've been retired 29 years, so
Yeah.
this was a long time. It was 59. So anyway, she said she could get us a house built and helped us sell the trailer, and they built us a house in Eastwood Terrace, which is over close to the college, St. Pete College on Old Coachman Road.
Right.
Yeah, and so anyway, she helped us get the house, and a 3-bedroom, and had 2 bathrooms, and
Nice,
it
yeah.
was nice.
Yeah.
It was about 12 or 1,300 square feet, and we had a garage and all. And boy, we were in the best, and hardwood floors, had oak floors in it. Yeah. So anyway, well, Phyllis was born when we were still in the trailer, our second daughter. So then we get in the house, and then in 1961, well, before that, my Phyllis, our daughter, she went into a coma on us. My wife was working down by her mother's store there for an answering service there, and her mother was keeping the kids over in their shop, and her and the little one, and anyway, she passed out on Grandma, or Oma, we call her, because we called it, she liked to be called Oma. Anyway, Edie got her in the car, and they went down to Suncoast Hospital. That's where our doctor worked, and so she was out of it completely for 3 or 4 days. They finally realized after tests, this was in the '50s, so there wasn't much like we got today.
Right.
You couldn't stick a needle in there and say, oh, you got this, that, and the other.
Exactly, yeah.
But anyway, they found out she had the phosphorus had eaten up the calcium. She had no calcium in her body.
Wow.
And so anyway, in order to give her the transfusions, her legs were about that big around. Her arms were even smaller. So they had to do an incision in the top of her ankle to get a needle in her so they could give her a transfusion.
Wow.
What do you think she weighed, honey? Maybe 30 pounds at the most.
Goodness.
She was a little tiniest thing. Anyway, she was there about 2 or 3 days, and then she came to, and we kept her a couple of more days there, and they suggested we take her to Tampa General for a neurosurgeon.
Oh.
Well, we took her over there, and of course they found nothing wrong. The problem was the calcium
Wow.
was gone in her body, and once they restored that, then she came out of it. Then pretty kept, and so anyway, Barbara. Well, the thing was too. I meant to tell you, Barbara. My mother had come down, and this was before she went into coma. When she went into coma, my mother had come down, and a little bit there, she said, "I'm going home with my granny."
Oh.
They lived in Northwest Florida then. They'd sold the Grove and bought a farm out in Northwest Florida, Ponce de Leon, and so she got in the truck, and went home with her granny.
Okay.
Yeah. And so lucky for us, because I was driving back and forth to Tampa at night, because Edie stayed with the baby over, and she did not like me at all. Did not like me, the baby. She was. We had a bar in the house, and we had the dining room was right next to her, the dining table, and we would have to put her up to that bar facing away from me when I was at the table. She wouldn't sit at the table with me. But anyway.
Interesting.
Tell you what, things work out. Comes to and everything, and she's over in Tampa General, and they have to use bedpans.
Mm-hmm.
And so Edie said, "Could you bring her little potty chair over?" Sure. So I went to work, got off, got cleaned up, drove to Tampa General with the potty chair in my hand. I walk in the room. She sits up and looks at me, and after that was no problem with her. That potty chair
That
made
did
her
the
fall in
trick.
love with me.
Wow, she really liked the potty chair. So.
Yeah, she did. She did.
That's funny.
But anyway, we got through all that, and then in January '61, we had twin boys.
Oh.
And of course, my wife decided the house was too small, so we sold it and rented a place for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ended up buying a smaller house than the one we sold. But it was a place there out of Clearwater called Acorn Court, little clay street, the marl roads,
Yeah.
It went back into it, and it's just 4 houses on it. But it was real nice and quiet back in there, and the kids could play, and the big field in the back. And then we had good neighbors across the fence, and they had those loquat trees and tangerines and stuff, so
Right.
the kids lived over there eating eating citrus and stuff. And so then I got a chance to get an advancement, but it was in St. Petersburg. So we sold the Acorn Courthouse and moved to Pinellas Park, and I went to work in St. Petersburg.
Still with Florida Power.
Florida
Yeah.
Florida Power.
Okay.
And anyway, we had a flood. And my wife drove every day back up to, she was working at Bank of Clearwater, which was on the corner of
right.
Cleveland and was that Florida 19. And she drove every day, and then this flood, some of the houses where we were, we had got a house built, and we'd just gotten moved in it good, was there probably about a year, and the houses coming into it was flooded up into the bottom of the windows.
Wow.
But our house was high and dry. And we had decided to put it on the market when the water went down.
Mm-hmm.
And as luck would have it, some people came and wanted it, and they bought it. And we moved to Clearwater on Temple Street, which is south off of Highland Avenue, and to south of Lakeview Avenue. And we moved in a 3-bedroom home down there, and we lived there for 30 years.
Oh.
The kids grew up, went to school in Clearwater, and graduated and got married. And Mom and I, we built us a swimming pool and a fireplace. And,
All right.
And we just time went by, and we got a chance to sell. We paid $25,000 for the house in 1972.
Right.
Okay, and 2000 we sold it for 146,000.
Right.
But we had the pool in and the fireplace.
Sure, but yeah, the values had really,
Yeah.
really increased.
But
Maybe.
it cost you about $500,000 for the same house today.
I'm sure.
It would probably.
Yeah.
From what prices I see that on these TV shows I watch, they don't sell anything for much under $500,000.
Right. Not in
Of course, I think
this
they're
area.
in California, though.
Oh, well.
You're going to be about twice what they are
Right.
here.
That's different. Yeah.
But anyway, that's. So then we moved to Dunedin for a year, rented a place in Dunedin, and built a house up in Lecanto, which is Crystal Oaks, between Crystal River and Inverness.
Right.
And we lived there 14 years. And in the back, our yard went down and there was all woods in the back, but I owned out. This backyard was probably about as far to the wall there, a big backyard.
Yeah, big.
And the last half of it down, I cleared her up and planted me a garden.
Oh, good for you.
I had every kind of vegetable you could think about raising. Flowers, sunflowers, and onions, okra, whatever. I think I do everything but strawberries.
Right.
But then we lived there 14 years, and then while in the meantime, then my 80th birthday came up, and well, before that, Buddy Boy.
Oh, yes. Tell us about Betty.
Hey, Buddy Boy. Some friends of ours at church. Here's Buddy. Anyway, their daughter was an animal lover, and she picked Buddy up when he was just a pup. Caught him running out on the road with his mother,
Yeah.
and he's probably 6 or 8 weeks old. But she picked him up, or she picked both of them up, and she gave the mother away and kept Buddy. And he was about a year old, and then she had him all neutered and everything was done. She asked me if I'd want him. I said, no, I really don't want another dog, because we'd just gotten rid of a Rottweiler we had in Clearwater. Because I was working as a dispatcher for Florida Power. When I went up through the ranks. I worked there, I'll just get this out of the way. I worked there 39 years, 3 months, and 16 days.
Wow.
And retired. I retired. That was long enough.
Yeah.
And but I retired in January the 1st of 1994. So this January will be 29 years since I retired.
Been a while.
Or December the 1st will be actually. But anyway,
So Buddy was a smart dog. Tell us about Buddy.
our friends from church. I'm gonna cry. They wanted to give him away, and I said, no, I really don't want a dog. She said, well, I got everything for him. He's all taken care of and everything. And said, I got a crate for him and all. I said, let me bring him and you see him. And I said, well, you can bring him, but don't wish for anything, So she brings the dog. They had a Jeepster, and she drives up with the Jeepster. Here's the dog looking out the front window, sitting in the front seat with her. And he saw me. She opened the door, and he saw me, and he come. Well, there my heart flipped over again.
You just knew.
And there's Buddy, a year old. So,
Yeah.
and I had him for 7 years, and then we sold the house up there. But anyway, he was so smart. He just, wasn't he, Bob? Yes, he was. He was. I mowed my yard, and I had one with the cord.
Right, you had to
cord,
pull it.
and it hooked up. So I put it in my shed, and so I had to step over it for some reason. When I come back, I caught my foot on the cord, and I tripped and fell down on my patio concrete.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, and luckily I had a hat on, one of those old, I call it a go to hell hat. Anyway, I fell on that and it saved my brain, but I think. But anyway, I started trying to get up. The dog comes over to me, puts his paw on me, and he would not let me get up.
Oh.
He would not let me get up. I said, just let me up. And he just, and finally I laid there a while and just relaxed. And I said, okay, buddy, I think I can get up now. And he took his foot off and let me get up.
Wow.
But
How much did he weigh? Was he a big dog?
he ended up there, I probably was around 70 pounds.
Oh, so he could hold you down.
Well, I wasn't fighting him too hard because I didn't want to get bit.
Right.
I hadn't had him that long.
Yeah.
And he was only a little over a year old then. And, but he was everybody in the neighborhood, he'd go around the neighborhood. And what was funny about him was the black snakes. We had a lot of black snakes up there. And he would catch them.
Shake them.
And I seen him snap them in two, just grab them and run them down and grab them and just shake them one time, and they were in two pieces.
Yeah.
But anyway, one day Sheila lives next blocks. They live next door to us, and they just love Buddy to death. All we had to do was say, we're going away for a couple of days. Could you keep him? Never mind, let him over. So he'd go over and stay with them, or Elsie next door to them even. That she loved him too, and he would go stay with them and they mind them and everything. It just no running off or anything. And so, but this one time he was out on Sheila's front walkway up on her porch, a little porch, and he was whining. And she said, she just talking out the door, Buddy, go away, go on, I've got time right now. He kept on, so she opens the door, and he had a dead black snake, and he'd brought it up there, and he was giving her the snake.
He wanted recognition for
He
killing
wanted
us.
recognition for bringing that snake to her.
Right. That's cute.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's, well, let's see. We stayed there for 14 years, and my birthday was on September the 16th of 83. Okay, yeah, I know. It was going to come to me in a minute, honey. Of 83, and that's when my grandson that I showed you a picture of, I think, that came, the one that got killed on the motorcycle, her son. We still cry over that.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
that was your 80th birthday?
yes,
Is that
10
right?
September would be 10 years since he got killed. But anyway, my wife, in March, April, May of 14, she was in the bathroom 5 o'clock in the morning. I hear her, and I said, what's wrong, honey? She says, I don't know. She said, I've got the worst migraine I've ever had in my life. I never hurt this bad. So I got up, and I went in there, and I said, you got more than a migraine. And I took her blood pressure, and it was sky high, and I called 911. They got her to Seven Rivers Hospital out on 19, north of Crystal River. And before I could get out there, they called me and said that she had a brain bleed. There was nothing they could do for her there. So I said, well, take her to Shands in Gainesville at the university. So they brought the helicopter in from there and flew her to Gainesville. And you came up, didn't you, and took me up there. And Barbara came up and took me over to Gainesville. And before we got there, they'd called me, well, it was about Williston, and called me and wanted to know if they could operate. They had to put a pin in or something, or a drain in the brain. And so I gave them permission to do that. And so when we got there, she was already back out of emergency. She was back in the recovery room. And so wasn't much we could do Friday. This was Friday afternoon by then. So I called everybody I could think of, and even Glenda, and I said, Glenda, I've got to pray for her. The doctors don't give her much hope. In fact, my son, Saturday, I went up to see her, and Barbara and Carl, my son that lives here, came up and took me, and if it hadn't been for them, I'd have probably been cast out on the floor right there when the doctor said, do you have arrangements? And I said, arrangements for what? She said, do you have a burial plot? So there's a very good chance she's not going to make it. I said, I can't believe that. I don't think she's going anyplace. And so I had everybody I could think of praying for her. This was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and you go in the room. We went in the room. You couldn't tell where she began and the white sheets ended. She was so white.
Yeah.
And they had this tube in her head draining blood. And so I said, my goodness gracious. I said, maybe they're right, you know. And anyway, other people were coming in, so they only let 2 at the time into to a room. So I'm sitting out in the waiting room for everybody to come on here, you know, and get in to see my wife. So around noon I go in there, and she's sitting up in the bed talking to people. Anybody tell me there's not a God?
Right.
Don't even, just don't even come near me. I don't want to hear. I know there's a God. I know there's a God. Number one, this dog. Number one, my wife. Number two, that dog.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough for me to know
Yeah.
that.
So.
Well, I believed before, but I tell everybody that story.
That's a great story. So she recovered then from.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
She was good. She got out. We went to, was there 15 days. We brought her over to Inverness, where she had worked for 7 years at a nursing home there.
Yeah.
And she was a purchasing agent for them for the over-the-counter drugs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And for 7 years. And then we put her there. And so she got out of there after about 30 days and came home, and she was driving the car and everything. But then after about 2 years, I noticed she would start to forget where she was at. And so I knew something was happening. And we went and bought a new Mazda, 2017 Mazda. Well, we rented it, we leased it. And anyway, it was one you have to push a button to start it inside, and you have to have the fob in your pocket and all that stuff. And so she wanted to go get her nails done, and I said, well, go ahead. It was just a little ways around the corner to where she could go to get the nails done. And so I look out the window, and the car's in the street. And she's sitting there, and she says, it shut off on me, it won't run. And I said, well, you haven't had any trouble with it, what's wrong? So I got in and got it started.
Yeah.
I backed up, and I said, get in, I'll take you. So I took her around and took her keys away from her. Mm-hmm. And but she did good. And then we moved to Newport Richey in 19, wasn't it? About 2019. Yeah, we moved to Newport Richey, and we weren't in there a week, and she started having trouble. Barbara was living with us. We had a 3-bedroom apartment, and I called Barbara, and she come and we got her. This is 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'd been trying to get her to get up and go to the bathroom, and she wouldn't get up, and so excuse me, we got her in the bathroom, and then I called 911, and they came and took her to the hospital, and I don't know what all they did there. Anyway, ended up said you need to go to rehab, so sent her over to Trinity Rehab Center, and nursing home, and so she was there a year and a half, and then the pandemic hit, and I didn't get to go in and see her. I went every day.
Before.
I guess it might have been a mistake because she wouldn't advance any farther, try to walk or anything, and they tried to do therapy on her to get her to walk and stuff, and she couldn't have anything to do with it. And so they had to put her in a wheelchair every morning, get her up in a wheelchair, and that's why she traveled around. And so anyway, I couldn't go see her.
Right.
Couldn't go in. I could go like outside the window, but they were shut. We had to talk to each other on the phone and visit that way. It's the only way I could get to see her. And so after the pandemic was, boiling down, they let me come and set up an appointment for me to come in to see her. So I walk in, she's sitting over in her wheelchair. And so I walked over and kissed her, and I said, "How you doing?" She said, "I'm okay. I'm ready to go home." I said, "I told you when you walk out of here, you can go home." She said, "Okay." She got up out of the wheelchair and walked as far as near to that wall and back.
Oh my gosh.
She trained herself to
Yeah.
walk because she wanted out of there then because I couldn't
'Cause
be
you
there
couldn't
every
come
day to
in.
visit with her.
Right.
And so I brought her home.
She got
I
to come
promised her, so
home.
I had to bring her home.
That's great.
So we stayed there till year before last now, and that was last year. Last year, and they and they wanted to raise my rent from $1,500 a month to $2,100, $600 a month raise.
Yeah.
And I said no. So I talked to the she was on Medicaid, so I talked to the agent, and she said, "Well, have you tried the Edwinola over in Dade City?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, that's a pretty good place." And I said, "Okay." So I called them and got an appointment. We went over, and a couple of times, and they accepted us to come over. So we moved over there. We was there about 7 or 8 days. We went down to, we were on the 5th floor, and we took the elevator down with our walkers, and she was in front of me, and right by the wall, and all of a sudden she just went over and down, fell down, and she fractured her hip.
Oh.
So she couldn't, actually had to send her to the hospital, and they had to
Yeah.
operate, and so then she wouldn't respond at all to,
Yeah.
and so they wouldn't accept us back at Edwinola because they didn't have the nurses there.
Sure,
It was just
right.
an assisted living. And so, but I thought she was going to be all right, to do that. So her ex-boss is now administrator at where we're at now,
Oh.
where I'm at now. And her memories are there. But anyway, he accepted us up there, and they put her in the nursing home part, and I could walk over from my room and so I paid, for mine and then Medicare. And her Social Security paid hers at the nursing home. And so they called in a neurologist right away when she got there, and he told me, she has dementia. Not dementia, what's it? Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's. So she was there from about June last year till February this year. And she got real bad, and she never walked her anymore. She wouldn't walk anymore.
Yeah.
And so they she got real bad, so they called hospice and asked me when to call hospice. And I said, yeah, let's take her and see if they can, give her full-time care. And so they took her over there on the Canto on 44. They got a nice short-term building there where they take them in. 8 or 10 days is all they can stay there, and they have to move out. But anyway, this was on Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. And so they brought her in there, and I was waiting out, and they got her cleaned up and dressed and everything. And they said I could come in to see her. I went in the room, and she was sitting there, and they were feeding her chicken and rice, and then she eats some ice cream. So I had a chair right beside her bed, so I laid down and went to sleep. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear she hadn't talked for about 2 days, really.
Yeah.
It's just when she had to, just very, very little.
Right, just response.
But she hadn't talked. We meet, and they said, "You want any more?" And she just shook her head. No, she wouldn't talk. So they sat her there, and she was breathing real heavy. They had to keep her turned with her head down so she could breathe, and the saliva would run out of her mouth. So this was Thursday night, and then she was there Friday. She didn't talk. The kids came up on Saturday about noon, and but Saturday morning about 2 o'clock, I hear, "Babe, where are you?" And I said, "I'm right over here, darling. What do you need?" She says, "I love you." And And she said, and I said, well, darling, I love you too. And she said, Phillip, you're a good man. And I said, well, honey, you're a good woman. And she said, okay. The soul left. The kids came up and on Saturday, and we just had the ball. The nurse said, go ahead, so she can hear you, but she won't be able to respond to anything. So we all visited for about 3 hours, weren't we there? They went and got pizza. Yeah, 4 or 5 hours, I guess. Yeah. And she never moved or woke up. You could hear her breathing real heavy. But I think the soul had gone. She was living off of just the elements of the heart and still beating.
Just the physical, yeah.
So they left, and so about, she was there, I could hear her breathing real heavy around 8 o'clock, and then all of a sudden, everything went quiet. And so I called the aide in, and she went and got the nurse, came, and 8:17, they pronounced her completely dead. But she didn't suffer really or anything. She just, she had pain because of just her legs and her knees and stuff. It just would hurt her, and she's in the nursing home. But
and the broken hip, probably.
Yeah, that's all. That just never healed right.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was it. And you have to excuse me. I'm getting a little teared here. I still do that.
I can understand that.
We were married. Well, she died February the 25th. We'd have been married 67 years, the 6th of April.
Wow. That's a long time.
Long lifetime, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's that, 3:30? You need to know anything else?
Not really.
I think I've told you a life story, haven't I?
You've done a really good job, so.
Well,
yeah.
I can't really think of anything else except for the last, well, the only other thing was her brother, who was 11 years older, he came to the funeral. He come down there, and he's pretty well crippled up and stuff. So anyway, it's been about 3 months ago now, he passed away, but he was 95. She was 84.
Wow.
And he left. Their mother lived to 101 and a half to the day.
My.
Her dad lived to 94. So we've done good.
You did.
My mom lived almost to 100. My dad would have been 89, and he died. What's ironic, my sister that passed away when she was 9, she died on January the 3rd. My dad died on January the 3rd. And of course, he died in 87. She died in 35. So a few years difference, but still the same.
Still the same date.
Still the 3rd, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, every month keeps repeating itself, doesn't it?
That's right.
Every year.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your memories and becoming part of our oral history.
Well, I hope that helped some.
Oh, yeah.
So,
all good memories.
There's
a lot we didn't talk about, but...
Well, there's a lot I probably have gone over. And I've gone over it in my mind since said I would come. I told Glenda a year ago that I would come, and then my wife kept getting worse, and I just said, no, I can't. I just didn't feel I could.
Yeah.
And we were talking on the phone the other night, and she calls me back and said, Phil, you said you forgot everything. Said, you remember a lot. Said,
you do.
To do it. But the thing I enjoy, was I enjoy talking about it and repeating and repeat stuff. But anyway, we'll call it, and thank you. And
thank you so much, Phil. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you listening to me.
Sure, happy to do it. Thank you.
Maybe it's something in there that nobody else has told you about.
You have your own memories there.
Like I did so long ago, and I'll make my home in Florida, where the orange blossoms grow and grow. So